Just live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. I'm glad to be with you here. Yes, it is the 121st edition of the Wednesday broadcast here on my YouTube channel, No State Project, August 7th, 2019. Glad to be with you here. I think what I'm going to do is I'll take a moment. I will have to log in for the trying to get everything done. And that's all right. It's just the beginning of the show. But the caller line, and I will give this out, of course. Mute that one moment. Yeah, we've got the
Chimes
caller
are
line
off.
hooked up. Everything should be a go. Hopefully there are no tech issues with this particular broadcast. Glad to see everybody streaming in. Aloha, mahalo. Someone from Hawaii. Prosecutor claim is gobbledygook. Well, that's yeah, it's better than legalistic gibberish, which they like to say, or the frivolous. Which yes, I will be getting that video up this week. Anatomy of a frivolous argument. No, when someone starts spouting this crap, just like fake news, they don't have any. They don't have anything to contradict the facts and the logic. So. A lot of stuff to get to. I'll give the number out now, and I'll repeat that. It's 218. Maybe if somebody can do that in the show note or in the chat, that would certainly help. But it's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020 with that there pound sign. So, yeah. So do I got to get that up there a little bit? I guess I just have to project a little bit better. There we go. All right. What some of the things I want to get to right off the bat there is I rarely give legal advice. It kind of sets people, certain people, it really sets them off. He's giving legal advice that only lawyers can do that. Well, whatever. Go ahead. Shut me down, prosecute, whatever. This is where it is really appropriate. Well, before I do that, I want to thank everyone for the continued support of the show. Of course, Dan and Bill in New Hampshire, Chris in California, and of course, I may not have mentioned on the last show, Rob in the Seattle area. Do appreciate the support of the show, guys. Eyal and Nelson, Mark and Don, and I appreciate all the continued support of the show. If you'd like to help support the show, then you can do so at markstevens.cells.com and also markstevens.net, which is, of course, the website. So if you are being attacked by a bureaucrat and you want to learn how to do better or more effectively defend yourself, then you can see documented proof. And yeah, we have like I was talking to someone yesterday, a lot more context than some people will put out there. We talk about the train wrecks too. Going to court is not a stroll in the park. There are a lot of things at play there, a lot of variables, and even the best legal defenses fail in court every single day. So, we do have a proven track record of very effective means of defending ourselves from an anarchist standpoint or a skeptic standpoint, not accepting anything is true unless there's facts and, there's facts actually proving actual proof. But you can get that at markstevens.net, which is also including Government Indicted, the book, and I still do phone consultations, and I have scripts and motion templates available over there. But if you are in one of these situations, court-wise or even admin-wise, so for the critics, just brace yourself, okay? Because you're probably gonna have an aneurysm here, because I am going to give legal advice on the air in front of everybody. There will be a HD video record of me giving legal advice. So here you go. Strap yourselves in. You're finally going to be able to nail me. Make your court dates. I am giving you legal advice. If you have a court date, go early. Do not blow off a court date. People who may tell you that that's a nifty kind of defense. Well, don't submit yourself to their jurisdiction, and you don't overstand that, No, I'm not saying you have any legal or moral obligation whatsoever to go to court when you're ordered to. What I'm saying is it will escalate and make things 10 times more difficult for you, because now it looks like you're blowing off the whole thing. So please heed this advice. It doesn't come too often. Well, I guess that's something that I should say, fairly, it doesn't hurt to say that fairly often. It's, if you're in California, you're going to have an extra charge. They will hit you with a misdemeanor charge of failure to appear. They can issue a warrant for your arrest, and the warrant for the arrest is given to a automaton with a gun. We're talking about police officers, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Police officers take great pride in that they are not being paid to use discretion. They are not being paid to think. That they are paid to do what they are told. Their job is not to exercise discretion. It is to do exactly what they're told to do. Police officers are good at two main things. Well, the violence, yes. They are good at taking orders, and they are good at giving orders. They are not in the business of being eloquent with argumentation. They do what they are told. Well, officer, what evidence do you have to support your legal claim that the laws apply to me and give you jurisdiction and probable cause? They don't give a damn. I don't know how many cops you could say even understand the phrase probable cause. All they know is what the hell they've been taught. Are they taught what it really means? And if they are, they don't care. They're just going to do what they were taught. So please, if you have an issue getting to court, don't just blow it off. Call the court. If it has to do with probation, call probation. If it's a situation where the travel is just it's an undue burden. Remember, that's a legal phrase. If it's an undue burden, make that known. They're not in the business of making things convenient for you. So if you at least have a court record that you're able to establish that's an undue, I just used the phrase. But it's too much. It's an undue burden. You've at least established a record that you're not just blowing off court because you want to. You have no choice. So please keep that in mind. Make your court dates early. Now, of course, that there'll still be criminals like Herbert Pierpan in Scottsdale, Arizona, who put down that you weren't there. But at least you'll have witnesses. You can check in. There could be a record with the clerk, so you can check in there. So that's my legal advice for today so far, that make your court dates on time. And there's a misconception that some people have that the motion to dismiss is their appearance. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not even technically a legal appearance, because you're not appearing. You're deliberately pointing out, at least what I do, that it is done under threat, duress, and coercion, that you're participating, but you're not you're not appearing. Appearing is a legal phrase. So keep that in mind. I hope that it doesn't ever have to come to my attention that somebody blew off court thinking, well, the motion to dismiss was my appearance. Unless you get a formal order from the clerk or the judge vacating that hearing date, you better go. You got to go. Now, if you're setting it up as some kind of activist thing and you know the risk involved, hey, I can respect that depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But for those who are not looking to, no, if you don't want it to escalate, and most of us don't, then you gotta go. Again, that does not imply, does not mean in any shape or form that there is proof that there is a legal or moral obligation to participate and go. We're just trying to keep it from escalating. Damage control, of course. We don't want this to escalate. So please keep that in mind. Make your court dates. And let's see, I'll put that. Yes, we want to share. Yes, it's 2020 in the pound sign. So those who want to call into the big show today, if you want to, what about anarchy, government abuse? Oh, we're going to talk about some government abuse, the worst kind, or defending yourself in court. 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399 will get you into the queue there. I came across. All right. Before I talk about the police, a little more information. We want to keep this going because it is so damn important. Not new news. It's a couple of weeks. I don't know. No, it's not a couple. This is a week old. Epstein case. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein, and court documents came out so that he's wealthy, but he's not a billionaire. So his finances were exaggerated, but he does have some hundreds of millions. I mean, he's not a billionaire technically, but that's not a big deal. I would imagine. Why would you'd have to be a real narcissist to? Anyway, speaking of, then again, some of his friends, judges, said the Epstein case. Remember, he was finally arrested. He was denied bail. Remember, Jeffrey Epstein, the child trafficker and child predator, rapist, pled guilty to a lesser charge. And so somebody called out the other me, and I want to point out, and they were right in a sense that I had said that he is not just an alleged child trafficker and molester, but that he's convicted. And by convicted, I mean because he pled guilty. Now, I'll be the first to admit that just because somebody pleads guilty doesn't mean they actually are. However, when you look at the overwhelming majority of people that are pleading guilty, they're not worth hundreds of millions of dollars. See, if you take me or the average person and you put them in jail for 30 days, you will completely destroy their lives. They'll lose their job. They'll lose their house. It's absolutely irreparable harm and injury that's caused. You take a guy who owns 2 islands, put him in jail for 30 days, you're not going to irreparably destroy his life. Once he walks out of that jail, he's going to go right back on to doing what he was doing. So the intense mental stress that they are putting on somebody, especially for marijuana possessions, and the fact that they could be held without bail for, marijuana, or even traffic, is not there with someone like Jeffrey Epstein. So I don't look, the fact that they had to grant immunity. Now, look, let's just assume for a second that the charges were pretty flimsy. Why in the hell, if the charges were flimsy and was not supported by facts, why would they give immunity to co-conspirators and potential co-conspirators? There's no evidence here. Let's give immunity. I don't think this is like the Central Park 5 that Captain Bonespur thinks should still be in prison, even though they were completely innocent. It's not a situation like that where you're an average person or you're poor and going to jail for 30 days or just, even less, let's say 2 weeks, is going to, no, it's not the same. I don't believe that they were exerting the same mental stress on Jeffrey Epstein to get a guilty, because I look at the sweetheart deal. I don't believe that they did that. Do I have any proof? They gave immunity to co-conspirators. He was able to leave the jail. This is a guy that should have went to prison the rest of his life, and he got a year or so in jail, not prison, but jail. And he left for most of the day. So, yeah, I don't buy it. So, yeah, I understand. All right, so let's get back to what's going on now. The judge agrees to keep the documents on 2008 plea deal secret. Court grants prosecutor's request amid concern that releasing materials could hinder investigation of finances Jeffrey Epstein's associates. A judge in New York has granted a request from prosecutors to keep secret documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's controversial 2008 sexual abuse plea deal on the grounds that the materials could hamper their investigation of others in the financier's milieu. Ooh, milieu. I think, is it milieu? Is that? Did I say that right, guys? I think I did. It's not a big word, but the français. The documents, which will be shared with Epstein's attorneys, are believed to concern not only the deal itself, which allowed Epstein to plead guilty to low-level state solicitation charges, but also a clause that granted immunity to any and all potential co-conspirators and named 4 women suspected of facilitating or participating in alleged crimes against minors or children. The documents may also shed light on the 2008 deal, which was kept secret from accusers for nearly a year, in what some claim was a violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Yeah, a federal judge said that. Controversy over the deal forced the resignation earlier this month of U.S. Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta, who was U.S. Attorney in Miami at the time. So when you get a sweetheart deal like that and all your potential co-conspirators are given blanket immunity, no, they weren't exerting stress on you. They realized that they had an asset there. They had somebody who had the goods on a lot of higher up people. So, no, they got the goods on this guy. This is not prosecuting some poor schmuck like me, when you turn up the heat to get a guilty plea. No. This is one of the king's men. This is one of the elite. Wealthy people are not forced into plea deals. That's just not the way it works out. They roll out the red carpet for them. Oh, no prison, no felony. We'll knock it down. You can go home during the day. All your potential co-conspirators, you did good. You're good. You got enough dirt on some pretty high up people. You're good. So we don't get to see who the potential co-conspirators and who the co-conspirators are yet. So we'll see. I don't trust federal prosecutors as far as I can throw them because I think they're a vile, disgusting bunch of people. But we'll see. Maybe they are being honest here. And maybe they are going after the co-conspirators. I doubt it. This I doubt. So, wow. I just can't even wrap my mind around how grossly corrupt that is to give potential co-conspirators blanket immunity. Wow. Oh, but there's no evidence. There's no evidence here, but we're going to give everybody immunity. That's really how prosecutors do things? Yeah, Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew were named in a civil suit brought by Epstein accuser Victoria Jeffrey in 2003 are regularly named among the associates of Epstein. Clinton has denied flying with the financier as many as 26 times, as has been reported, although he did say he took, quote, a total of 4 trips, end quote, with him in 2002 and 2003. Yeah, right. Okay. A little more information about Jeffrey Epstein. It says that the Southern District of New York unsealed its indictment against Jeffrey Epstein Monday, already a registered sex offender. Epstein faces 1 count of sex trafficking and 1 count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking for crimes allegedly committed in New York City and Florida. He's accused of molesting underage girls who paid, or otherwise known as children, who paid to give him massages and then paying them to recruit other girls to do the same. So there's a lot of corroborating statements. While some details of the accusations against Epstein are known thanks to dogged investigative reporting and similar charges he faced in 2008, newly released court documents, including an indictment and bail memo, contain new revelations. Here are 6 of them. Epstein's victims told him they were underage. The indictment says Epstein intentionally sought out and knew that he was abusing minors or children. Some of the girls were as young as 14. And Epstein knew this, prosecutors allege, because they expressly told him. He wasn't working alone. While Epstein sometimes set up appointments with his victims, he had help, according to prosecutors. Again, it's so difficult to think that prosecutors are telling the truth about anything, but they're not typically lying about all the facts. It's their legal conclusions, that, especially in tax cases, that are off the charts dishonest. So he wasn't working alone. He paid his victims to recruit new victims. Epstein's victims in New York City and Palm Beach, Florida, were paid hundreds of dollars to bring him new victims. Now, they probably have financial records to prove that. The indictment says this was done to ensure a steady stream of minor victims or children victims. Prosecutors think he's an enormous flight risk. Yeah, duh. He held on to evidence of his crimes after Epstein was arrested over the weekend. This is a couple weeks ago. Police searched his New York City mansion and found a trove of evidence of his crimes, including, quote, lewd photographs of young-looking women or girls, and quote, evidence consistent with victim recollections, end quote, that served to strengthen the evidence of the conduct charged in the indictment. The bail memo says, and some of the photographs law enforcement found in Epstein's home were on CDs that were kept in a locked safe. How? See, now after 2008, when he gets this sweetheart deal, of course he can do. He do what he did. Yeah, do whatever. He can do whatever he wants. So he can keep evidence. He can keep his trophies. He's got nothing to worry about because Alexander Acosta's got his back. None of his friends have to worry because they gave blanket immunity to all his co-conspirators. This is your ruling class. That is what you get. And what do the useful idiots of the ruling class, what are they out doing? I'm not talking about the elite. I'm not talking about the governors and the senators. What do the foot soldiers do? Huh? What do these guys do? The police. An article that came out this week, inverse.com. It was a study released Monday. It says here nearly 3 Americans are killed by police every day. This means of all the homicide victims in the United States, police kill an estimated 6% of those individuals. But the actual numbers are likely higher. Researchers say the government data is woefully inadequate because they don't really keep, that we know is true because they don't keep a good record of these things. So the best available data sets have been created by journalist-driven public programs. New research on one of these sources shows that police violence is even deadlier for one group of Americans than previously suspected. In a study released Monday in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a team of sociologists and criminal justice researchers used data compiled by the National Vital Statistic System's mortality files, as well as fatal encounters, a journalist-led database to create one of the few comprehensive baseline estimates available for how often Americans are killed by police. They determined that police violence is one of the leading causes of death of young men in the United States. Overall, it's estimated that the mortality rate is about 1.8 per 100,000 for men between the ages of 25 and 29. This ranks police use of force as the 6th leading cause of death for young men, placing it behind other public health issues like suicide and accidents, a category that includes drug overdoses and car accident deaths. Police are a substantial cause of death in the United States across groups. First author Frank Edwards, PhD, tells Inverse. They are contributing to early mortality for lots of people. Prior to the study, we didn't fully appreciate the scale of that. Yeah. So we should think of these as conservative numbers. The true number is likely higher, but we don't know by how much it is higher. And then they break it down for minority groups. Sixth leading cause of death among men 24 to 29 in the United States. We have more deaths in the United States by police officers than we do with white nationalist and white supremacist terrorists, like we just had in another mass shooting. Actually, there's a few mass shootings this past week, like this one in particular in El Paso, Texas. So, yes, police cause more deaths than these mass shootings, according to some numbers. Because what do police do? They are given a gun and they are told to go out and enforce the will of politicians, not go out there and protect people. No. If they're out there protecting anything, it's protecting the ruling class and keeping the ruling class as the ruling class. Because as we know, the hero, Scott Peterson, in the Parkland shooting, I believe it was, in Florida, fully armed, stayed outside. Oh, the only thing that stops a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. Well, Scott Peterson must not be a good man with a gun, because he stayed outside. And they still make the illegal claim that he was not there to protect them, even though that was his specific job, was to be there to protect that school. He failed to protect the school. So, see how that worked out. All right, we got some calls. Hopefully I can hear everything. All right, we got Sebastian.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
So we got you, Sebastian?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Good to hear your voice again. Good to have you back on.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But yeah, like the media is never going to talk about what the real issue is the violence of the state, and why these psychos are going to go out and do these things. What if prostitution was legal, or if drugs are legal? Maybe this guy wouldn't be so frustrated and would be spending his money on that instead of spending his money on a gun and going out and shooting people.
There was one in particular that one of the shooters was posting, one of these incel types, one about how much he hates women and how he can't get laid and nobody will give him the time of day. So maybe with someone like that, you got a point.
And then, it's just like, they never discuss the violence that's inherent in the system. And, they're just going to go out and blame video games and the guns and not address the root problem with society, which is why we're so violent.
Violence is normalized. I don't blame video games at all. I look at the fact that you have legal and illegal, which justifies violence for a certain group of people, where it's okay. How many people have made money from investments that they've made in McDonnell Douglas and the Carlyle Group, who are profiting off of the death and destruction in the Middle East? It's normalized. They're not considered to have any culpability there. I'm just capitalism. I'm just earning a living. I mean, I'm working smart. I'm putting my money to work for me. I mean, this was brought up in The Myth of the Innocent Civilian years ago. I'm sorry, I forget the author's name. I actually know him. It's just been a while. Do the people who invest in companies like McDonnell Douglas, do they hold some moral culpability and responsibility for let's say, a bus being blown up in Yemen?
They don't.
They don't?
Well, I mean, they do, but they don't admit it.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, American capitalism at its finest. All I'm doing is investing. What the company, what's done, even if the company knows what and that's the thing. There's no possible way that you can say that McDonnell Douglas, for example, in the Carlyle Group, and that they are innocent and they don't know what's being done with that. It's the same as when you start sending guns to Saudi Arabia. you have to. Everybody knows what kind of society that is. Everybody, my gosh, they stone people for being gay. There's a certain amount of normalization of violence where it's okay to have men with guns breaking into thousands of Americans' homes every single year on warrant for warrants in the middle of the night, no knock warrants. That's okay. That's okay. So it's so it's so hypocritical, these scumbag politicians to turn around and try to denounce violence. Like, you're the most violent group in society. How many buses of children have you led to being killed lately? Do we lose Sebastian? I'm getting no audio from Seabass. Oh, he can just jump in when. And that's the thing. We're going through the same cycle, the same stupid cycle that we've gone through so many times. They denounce the violence, and then there's stuff about thoughts and prayers. What the hell are thoughts and prayers going to do? What I got to tell you, that's one of the stupid. What 15 people or so are dead. Families are absolutely devastated. Thoughts and prayers? But we have to confront, I believe, this normalization of violence. Why is it accepted? This is what I've said on the show so many times. Why is it accepted as moral for people called government to do that which is immoral? We actually believe, or a majority of people believe, or act as if they believe, that these people have a moral right to do what is immoral. And that's why how many times have we said it? I think we lost Seabass. In that, if I was to do things, the other show, actually, the numbers were pretty good for that show. Do ethics matter? Unfortunately, for most people, they don't seem to, because they give a free pass to people called government. If I was to do things the way government did, which they're just men and women, if I was to force strangers to give me money, even if I did it under the guise of helping them, would you consider me a criminal? And no, we're not talking about some kind of ethical dilemma here. Well, somebody who had no choice but, to feed his family, stole a loaf of bread. There's no moral dilemma there. You don't need to force people to give you money to provide services. Hell, we've got it's 2019, and there are Nazis in the world again. There was somebody that used to be on the network that I'm on, LRN.FM, who was in the Charlottesville protests. In 2017, there are pissed off white people screaming, "Jews will not replace us." What the hell is? Wow. I tell you, we have to question this. Bring it out. Ethics do matter, because if ethics didn't matter, you'd get answers to these questions. Let's see. Do not allow yourselves to be victims. You have God-given rights. I would argue against that, but to defend yourselves in public against evil people, arm yourselves. And is that really the key? This whole thing, well, I need a gun because I need to fight the government. Does anybody really think for a second you can fight an organization that has billions of rounds and billions of rounds, that has the most sophisticated war equipment the world's ever seen, including nuclear? Does anyone think for a second there are groups of Americans that will actually take up guns against government abuse? I'm not saying to do that. My gun, My God, give them right to a gun. Second Amendment says it, damn it. Does anyone think that, because I'm going to use that against an oppressive government? How many times has that happened? It ain't going to get to we are not getting to a voluntary society through the use of violence. It's going to be by rejecting violence. So that's my take on it anyway. So, but if you want to join me here on the show, I hopefully there wasn't a tech issue on my side. You could do so at 218-632 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. Someone's saying here, Revolution 2012, no, Mark, arm yourselves because it is your responsibility to protect yourself and your family. Well, that makes perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Someone said, I did not state against government, just other citizens. Yeah, okay. Well, then, yeah. But I guess I was addressing more of the broader issue where people think that everyone should be armed because you got to, and the Second Amendment is about keeping the government in check. That usually doesn't work out very well at all. And what's going on in China now with the protests, hey, that might wind up being worse than the Tiananmen Square massacre. So we'll see how that plays out. But, at least, all right, let me see. Do we have any more callers or are we going to cut this one there? Okay, I think what we're going to do is I'll just address some of these things here on the chat before wrapping up. Let's see. Stay free or die trying. Home of the brave, right? Well, you got to be smart about it. I mean, seriously. I mean, I've been involved in this so-called movement for 20 years, and except for some minor victories here and there, like in New Hampshire, not much has actually been done. I mean, we've had a lot of court success, an awful lot of court success. But it's got to be more than that. If we're going to have an impact on the system, we have to start actually confronting these immoral people. We have to, look at where is the moral culpability for these the military industrial complex. I mean, are we supposed to, I guess, well, see, we are all voluntarists, whether we realize or not. I don't think that I got to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disagree with you there, Emily. I don't think that everyone's a voluntarist. They just don't realize it or not. I think there are actually people out there that through conditioning and not knowing any better and maybe having a financial interest actually think we should have government and that it should be by force, that they actually believe that people called government have a moral right to do what is immoral. Well, it's the government. They may not be able to explain it further than that, but there are people I would say most people are actually terrified of having a voluntary society. And I think if how many people really explain it? Mark, can you set up super chat? There are tax documents that are involved with that. So that's why I kind of shy away from that. I'm more than happy to take chat, if you want to support the show, just do it on my, on my sales page, or markstevens.net, it's markstevens.sales.com. But I'm willing to take, go, whatever. William, if you've got some questions, let's field them now before I'm more than happy to can respond to the chat right here. No. The devil has no morals. Well, I wouldn't necessarily call them the devil. I think they do have morals. They just don't have consistent morals, because I would say that even the most dyed-in-the-wool hardcore statist would not want me to force him to do something. And even with a diehard statist, pretty certain, because I've spoken to so many of them, that when you ask them if you would consider me a criminal, if I did things just like you and forced strangers to give me money, would you consider me a criminal? They're always, when they're honest, they say, well, yes, of course you're a criminal. And they try, well, but we have the law. Do you have any evidence the law applies to anybody? Oh, we don't need evidence. Well, then you're just a base criminal. you're just a damn crook. Because forcing strangers to give you money makes you a criminal. So anyway, I think what we'll do is we'll end on that. I will get the links into the show notes there. I'm glad to be back here on a regular schedule with the No Stay Project. And yes, William Prego. And I did find out recently that Prego does not translate to Spanish. So I was trying to, I'm trying to learn how to speak Italiano, and so in California, the neighbors and some were spoke Spanish, and they'd say gracias, and I would say prego, and after a few, I started getting these looks, and that's why I asked one of the neighbors, that doesn't translate to Spanish, does it? And like, we have no idea what the hell that means. Anyway, I do appreciate everyone's support of the big show. If you want to support the show, it's markstevens.cells.com and markstevens.net. And I'm glad to be back on a regular schedule. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it to Jackalope, but if I am able to make it to Jackalope, which is in Bacos Meadow in Arizona, beautiful area. It's going all this week. Hopefully, I'd like to get there on Saturday, and I will give notice if I am, and I will not. I'll have a recorded show from Jackalope that I will post Monday or Tuesday. If not, then I'll have the regularly scheduled program here on Saturday. So if you did have something you wanted to discuss today, we couldn't get it in, then just give us a call on Saturday. From 1 to, I guess we'll do it from about 1 to 2 Pacific Standard Time. And again, it was episode for this, was it August 7th, 2019. This was episode 121 of the Wednesday broadcast here on my YouTube channel. And we should be live on Saturday. And so till then, salud.